there and welcome to my studio. My name is Nesli and today we are going to be making a ruffled summer dress for the small little children in your life using my pattern right here, which you can download with the links in the description down below. And with your download, you'll not just have the pattern pieces, but you'll also have a very detailed sewing manual, which includes a list of materials you need. It explains how to take measurements, how to print out the pattern pieces and later connect them, step-by-step sewing instructions with descriptive photos. I hope you find it useful. And your download also includes an illustration I drew which you can print out and hang on your child's wall. In this illustration, she is wearing the exact same dress you'll be making today. I thought this is a fun way to improve your child's imagination by you and your child creating little short small stories and tales together. I think this is a very cute little summer dress that you can sew for your child, for your grandchild, or you can just sew it and give as a gift to expecting parents, and so easy to make. I'm just here for you to create a meaningful wardrobe for the small people in your life. So without further ado, let's begin sewing.
First things first, there are a couple of things you need, such as fabric, bias tape, matching thread, embroidery thread but this one is optional, and buttons. And also measuring tape, seam ripper, pins, water-soluble pen, paper and fabric scissors. Iron your fabric. You need to place your front bodice piece on fabric fold, and naturally there should be 2 layers of fabric. Match center front fabric fold edge on the pattern to the edge of your fabric and pin, then start cutting. Place your back bodice piece on your fabric as well and pin it. Make sure it is parallel to the fabric selvage edge with the help of the grain line on your pattern. You'll need 2 back bodice pieces, so again 2 layers of fabric is needed. For the skirt pieces, you'll need to cut 2 upper tire and 2 lower tire of rectangle skirt pieces. On the back bodice piece, there are notches. Make sure you snip them with a small scissors. Now it is time for overlock stitching. For the front bodice piece, shoulders, sides and bottom need to be overlocked. For the back piece, it is the same, except in addition you'll do overlocking to center back as well. All sides of the skirt pieces will be overlocked. We'll start sewing from bottom and make our way to the bodice pieces. To be able to gather and make ruffles, set the stitch length between 5 and 6. Do not lock the stitch while starting and finishing the sewing. For domestic sewing machines, get your settings like this. Before starting to sew, pull the thread to extend it. We will make the ruffles on the lower skirt piece first. Sew along the seam line on its long side. Sew a second line parallel to the last stitch you just sewed. This line should be half a centimeter away from the edge of the fabric. Leave long threads on each end of the seam. Now we need to secure the loose threads on one end of the seam. Place a needle vertically close to the edge and with your loose threads make an H shape around it until you run out of thread. Pull the threads on the other end while gently sliding fabric to form waves. Even out the gathering stitches as you pull. Do this until the gathered edge is exactly the same length as the edge to be connected. And if they do not match, make adjustments until they match. When your fabric has been gathered to the needed length, knot the gathering ends securely with each other. And now we need to make sure the gathers are evenly distributed along the edge to achieve a beautiful look. Place the gathered one on the upper skirt piece by reversing it. Their right sides should be together and edges aligned. And now let's pin along the edge to secure their placement. Personally, I like to pin as much as possible, because I don't want to correct my mistake later instead of doing the job right from the start. It is time for stitching. Turn your stitch length to 2, and this time we'll lock both ends of our seam. Apply a straight stitch right along the seam line, which is 1 cm away from the fabric edge. Always stitch on the gathered one side, because that way you should be able to see the problematic side more clearly and can make adjustment along the way. And drum rolls please! Ta-da! Iron the seams apart from each other without going into the wavy side too much. And iron from the other side as well. And now we'll gather this edge and connect it to the bodice piece. And same things apply for gathering this edge as to what we did earlier. Set the stitch length between 5 and 6. Do not lock the stitch while starting and finishing the sewing. Sew 2 lines parallel to each other along the seam line, one being 1 cm and other half a centimeter away from the edge of the fabric. Leave long threads on each end of the seam. You know the drill. Again, same steps. Make a knot around the pin. Pull the threads on the other end gently. Even out the stitches as you pull. Make sure your counter edge is the same length as the other side. Secure your gather by tying a knot when you are comfortable with the outcome. Well, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. Pin it to the bodice piece facing the right sides together. Sew along the edge. And iron your seams apart from each other. And now our front is now complete. Now, if you remember, on the back bodice piece, we snipped a couple of notches close to the center back. We are going to use them to fold the fabric correctly for where the buttons and buttonholes will be placed. I use a water-soluble pen to highlight where the notches are so that you can see easily on camera. By measuring 1 cm from the edge with a tape measure, I'm marking additional notches as I marked for the cut ones. Let's name these imaginary lines A, B, C, D. First, we are folding the A line. What we fold is the seam allowance. We are pinning it in place and do a light ironing. Now we are folding the C line, where your middle notch is located. What this means is B line and D line will be on top of each other. See how these notches are moving together. We are pinning them in place again. Bottom edge as well. Do a little finger ironing. Press nicely. This is the inside. Do the same things for the other side. We'll do straight stitch right along this edge by placing your foot's left side's inside edge to the inner edge of the fold. See? It looks beautiful! Now let's sew buttons and buttonholes. It may come across as intimidating a little, but fear not. You'll see how easy it is. And if not, the proof is in the pudding. Here, we will get help from your pattern piece. We fold the line with the button and buttonhole marks and place it on your right back piece. After matching the shoulder and side edges exactly, we mark where the buttonhole marks coincides. You can also do this with tailor chalk. Just make sure it will be wiped off your fabric. And for the left side, we match the edges of the paper and fabric pattern piece. Place your markings so that they are aligned with the upper and lower notch. Now let's look at the feet required for sewing buttons and buttonholes. This and the previous one is for sewing buttons. This one is for buttonholes. When the foot is in the starting position, these two lines match. When we place the button we sew up to the new corresponding line. First off, place your darning plate. If you don't have one, lower the feet dogs down so your fabric won't move. Attach the foot and bring the first button point right under your needle. Place the button under the foot and turn its holes as I am doing right here. They should be in proper position for zigzag stitching. Set your meshing to sew a zigzag stitch and slowly lower your needle to see if it can slide in easily. When everything is ready, secure your button with a couple of zigzag stitch. And voila! We sew a button. Of course, you can do this by hand as well, but this just makes things easier. We changed into a matching thread for buttonholes. Attach the foot. It should stand like this. Place your presser foot at one end of the buttonhole marking. Turn the buttonhole dial to the button symbol 1 for the first step. Do a couple of zigzag stitch. Now buttonhole dial to 2 for second step. Stitch, 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 stitch. For the third step, turn to 3. A little bit zigzag stitch. And for the last step, turn to 4. And stitch all the way back to the starting point. Our first one is ready. Now do the other ones. Use a seam ripper to open the area between the sewn edges. Take care not to cut into the threads. You can use small, sharp scissors to clean the holes. For the back skirt pieces, off camera I followed the same gathering and stitching steps as I did for the front of the skirt, and finish the back side as well. It's exactly the same as the front. I promise you didn't miss anything. Pin the skirt part to the bodice piece facing their right sides together. And sew a straight stitch along the edge. Iron the seams apart from each other again and be careful with the waves. Don't crash them. Iron the other side too. Now that our both sides are ready, it is time to connect them on sides. Place their right sides facing each other. To match the seams perfectly, place a pin straight down into the seam line. Push it all the way in, just straight down, and make sure pin is sticking out on the other side of the seam line too. Pass it through the seam line one more time and stick out from the other side again. It will look like this. Sew a straight stitch along the side seams. You see how perfectly these seams match? It is so satisfying to look at. Connect the shoulder edges now and sew a straight stitch for them too. And of course, iron the seams apart. Now we are going to sew the hemline. Fold the hem half a centimeter along the edge. While doing this, iron it at the same time so that it stays in place. It will look something like this. Once again, fold the hem half a centimeter, press with your fingers and iron it nicely. Now you folded the entire seam allowance. Place your foot's left side inside to the inner edge of the fold and sew along that line. Notice how it's coming along at the back of the machine. To finish the raw edges, we'll use bias tape for this project. You can go with a matching color or a contrasting one. Take the side with the buttonholes on its right side. Leave 3 or 4 centimeters bias tape sticking out and start pinning along the edge. Pin the whole neckline circumference. Sew a straight stitch 1 centimeter away from the edge right along the seam line. Turn the bias tape away from the dress and fold it over the dress's neckline without bending the seam allowance. On the front of the dress, 1 centimeter of the bias tape should be visible with seam allowance right underneath it. Pin along the whole neckline circumference again, just where your bias tape and dress itself meet. When completed, it will look like this, and its back will look like this. Iron it nicely so it stays in place as you remove the pins when sewing. You see how I am aligning my needle just between my dress and bias tape, right in the middle. Your stitch must be neither on the fabric nor on the bias tape. It should travel exactly in between. When sewing a fabric that is pinned vertically, do not sew over it. You may break your needle. Stop and remove the pins as you come across them. On the back side, carefully cut off the excess bias tape with a pair of scissors close to the seam and discard it. Be very careful not to cut what you shouldn't. We cut the excess bias tape we left out from the edge, so that 1 centimeter of it remains. Match the other side and cut it to the same length. Fold them inwards and secure it with a pin. Do the same. Sew a straight stitch along the top edge. Turn the 1 centimeter bias inwards so that it doesn't show through the front of the dress anymore. As usual, we'll pin it into place. Give the neckline a good press, but remove the pins as you iron it, as it may seal marks on your fabric. Try to roll the bias ever so slightly in, so that it is not visible from the right side. Place your foot's left side inside to the inner edge of the fabric and sew along that line. Top stitch in place from the wrong side, making sure your fabric underneath is flat to prevent wrinkles. Give the neckline a final press to eliminate the last wrinkles, if there are any. This part is fairly similar to the previous one with a couple of different steps. Start pinning the bias tape 2 or 3 centimeters away from the side seam. Pin the whole armhole circumference. Your last pin should be also 2 or 3 centimeters away from the side seam. Cut away the excess. Once everything is lined up, you are ready to sew. Sew a straight stitch along the seam line. Start sewing where your first pin is and stop where your last pin is. Now we'll connect loose bias tape ends so that it fits right into the armhole. Stick a pin through the seam line and hold it upwards. Bring one of the ends onto the needle and mark it where they meet. Do the same for the other loose end. Overlap these lines you marked and pin them. Sew a straight stitch like this. Cut off the excess, leaving 1 centimeter seam allowance. Split the ends apart. And I know you can align your seams perfectly. Sew it close the part we didn't sew earlier. Turn the bias tape away from the dress and fold it over the armhole without bending the seam allowance. On the front of the dress, 1 centimeter of bias tape should be visible. Pin along the whole armhole circumference again, just where your bias tape and dress meet. As you see, same steps apply with bias tape in the neckline. Make sure you align the needle just between the dress and bias tape. Cut off the excess bias tape close to the seam. Remember to be careful. Turn the 1 centimeter bias inwards, then pin it into place. Do this the whole circumference. Press it nicely and remember to remove the pins as you iron it, not to damage the fabric. Place your foot's left side inside to the inner edge of the bias and sew along that line. Top stitch in place from the wrong side, making sure your fabric underneath is flat to prevent wrinkles. Give a final press to remove the wrinkles if there are any. This part is totally optional, but I think it elevates the look of the dress, and as you see, it is very easy to do. Looks so cute, and I love when a detail can only be noticed when you look carefully. They look super cute! Alright, that is it for this project. I hope you liked it. And if you did, leave a like and subscribe to my channel to help it grow. Please feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions or questions. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and see you guys later. Bye!